Yes.
Can you see it now?
Yes, Dr. Manisha.
Okay. A very good evening, and thank you all for sparing your time for this webinar. I'll be speaking in just about some quality assurance measures which should be taken in the iBank. So iBanking has a long and impressive history, having enabled millions of people with sight-saving surgeries. But iBanking has evolved. The last decade has seen iBanking reinventing itself and getting transformed where quality is the foremost guiding principle. And it's not all about numbers anymore. And maintenance of integrated quality assurance program is mandatory. We all know, and was pointed out earlier by Dr. Lalit, that there is paucity in the availability of transplantable tissue, which makes it more relevant to increase the utilization of the collected tissue, as each tissue counts. So today, if we look at iBanking, it is a professional cadre which is involved at every step, be it the iBank manager, the counselor, tissue harvesting and consent taking, tissue evaluation, distribution, quality assurance, and transplantation. So the doctor just remains at the apex, being the medical director and doing transplantation. The pillars of iBanking, as we all know, are awareness, the tissue harvesting, the preservation, evaluation, and then distribution. But now quality assurance is one of the most foremost guiding principles to everything which is happening in the iBank. So why is quality important? So quality assurance is needed for timely availability of corneal tissue to the surgeons, for the iBank's effectiveness and efficacy, and safe utilization of tissue and infection control. The quality program is an integrated program, and it is like a jigsaw puzzle where each and every piece is important. You leave one piece out and the puzzle is not complete and nothing is achieved. There are certain steps to establish quality in an iBank. It will start from the gap analysis. So what exactly is gap analysis? Gap analysis shows us where we are today. And I can give an example in most of the iBanks. If we just go for a stringent audit and find out where we are and take up some standards and know this is where we want to achieve. That is the first step towards any quality assurance program. Preparation of policies, that is SOPs, having good SOPs is one of the important pillars. The updation of protocols, infrastructure development, the implementation of protocols, monitoring, indicators and audits, and incident management and corrective and preventive action. So in any iBank, which is now putting a step on quality, a structured QA program is to be initiated in a phased manner. The first important thing which any iBank has to do is to abide by law of land. The country you are in and the state you are in. As in India, health is a state issue. So you have to understand your state and the policies of the state. In compliance with regulatory requirements, mainly the NPCB guidelines, preparation of SOP is an integral part of any quality measure. As if you have good SOPs and if they are read well, they become the pillar for anybody coming in the iBank, and it reduces the errors. It has to be prepared by focus group and discussed and reviewed by all stakeholders. So important part again I feel that human resource or the trained resource in the iBank is actually a great asset for any iBank. And this capacity building has to be done through induction of trained manpower by training, standardized training throughout the country. What is another necessity is the universally accepted indicators. So when we were looking at these universally accepted indicators and we were starting and implementing quality assurance program, we found there were not many. What was required for that is to have a reference model of the iBank. So there are 4 major activities happening in the iBank: the donor acquisition, tissue harvest and preservation, the evaluation of the tissue, and distribution of the tissue. So we came up with all 4, and we realized that there are at each step, there would be some specific documentations, regulatory documentations required, and the specific steps to be done. And that if we are able to follow at each step, definitely the tissue comes out to be of good quality and safe to use. So we came up with the indicators for the iBank, and this paper addresses the necessity of quality indicators which are specific to iBank by identifying, defining, measuring, and proving the efficacy of the 4 quantitative eye banks, which we did through the prospective study for 5 years. For measuring quality of any eye bank, these indicators, which I will be just discussing, covered both the result quality as well as the process quality. So the 4 indicators were adverse reaction rate, the discard rate, protocol deviation rate, and compliance rate. The first 4 being the leading indicators that is directly tell the health of an eye bank or the quality standards of the eye bank. And compliance rate, if all the 4 are done well, the compliance of most of the activities which are appropriately performed in the eye bank becomes good if the first 4 are within good limits and you have good parameters for that. Any measures of quality assurance is meaningless if you're not monitoring what we are doing. So ongoing monitoring and evaluation of activities, identification of problems, and development of plans for corrective actions is very important. So periodic audits, which may be monthly donor record audit or temperature log management, or a big compliance audit, which should be done at least once in 6 months. Training is important because that is what is going to implement the SOPs which are there, and also documentation practices which most of the technicians or the counselors may not be trained of. You have to do again and again. It's just not a one-time process. The first thing we realized also that we have to make quality assurance as a formal activity enmeshed with the roles and responsibilities of all eye bank staff. Not just understanding how the eye bank is working. If we are able to standardize recovery process, that also is important and leads to good quality assurance measures. So we came up with a rubric for assessment of eye bank professionals for eye retrieval. And this is a very replicable rubric which does not require a doctor's input also. A good manager or a senior technician is able to train and evaluate their co-technicians. So we also did this comparative study with an eye bank in US and compared the Indo-American experience for the practical use of rubric for the assessment of professionals. All this leads to an increased utilization. That's what was the first point which was raised when we started this webinar. And we found from our study that impact of quality assurance on utilization of corneal tissues in a community eye bank is definitely high. And this paper came up and it demonstrated the role of quality assurance program and specific indicators as a viable and practical means for increasing utilization of donated corneas in a community eye bank. This paper is relevant because most of the time we feel quality assurance program will increase the cost and we may not become sustainable. But what has been the experience of most experts is that the quality assurance program makes you more sustainable because you are quite focused on what you want to do. What we did here was that 3 major QA steps which we pointed out were having standard operating procedures, the quality indicators, and regular monitoring. And these were the pre-intervention period and the post-intervention period, which told us that this is increased. It was the same which was presented at the EBAA meeting. The impact of quality assurance is definitely high. As you can see, the numbers, both in terms of utilization and collection and utilization, start to build up because it's now about focused points which you have to take care in the field as well as in the eye bank. The discard rate definitely reduces, and currently the eye bank is at a utilization rate of around 85%. The other reasons for non-utilization rate, if we look at post-quality intervention, the reasons which could have been avoided, something like taking a good medical history, the blood sample issues, that really came down. Even seropositivity with good history started to come down. And this is the current way how these 4 indicators which we see in our eye bank, and we have been very satisfied with what we are doing currently. So the impact, I would say, the culture in the eye bank stimulates the efforts for continuous improvement and increased job satisfaction among the eye bank staff, the improved reputation among stakeholders, and it definitely ensures patient safety. A good tissue going out definitely gives the confidence to the surgeon or to which type of tissue you're using. People like it from accredited eye banks. The other impact, I felt that you are more prepared for adversities. So when the COVID infection came up, The first wave we did not know much. It took us a little time. But we quickly went down and made new SOPs with the AIOS guidelines which came in, and we were able to take care of our own needs. During the second wave and later on, we never had to close down the iBank completely. The other advantage of having a good QAP is having the good, we are able to meet the challenge of accreditation. And sometimes you are lucky and you are acknowledged by some organizations about the work which you do. To conclude, I would say QAP isn't just a necessary compliance with the regulatory and with the clinical needs of the surgeon. In the long term, it is a mechanism which increases the utilization of the transplantable tissues or availability of transplantable tissues in the iBank. QAP is of strategic importance for upscaling and reducing corneal blindness as a public health issue. Thank you so much.